starts with you, only you. A cosmic dance, the truth so true. From the ether to the earthly plane, all you seek, you can attain. The quantum flow, the light you hold, creates the story that will unfold. Every thought and step you make, the universe is yours to take. It starts with you, the mirror's hue, infinite skies reflecting you. From the void, you birth the light. Through the shadows, your soul takes flight. The winds will shift, its timeless bend. Every cycle begins again. Your energy builds, it flows, it streams, aligning rims, igniting your dream. Each vibration, each sacred sound, a universe moves resound. You are the spark, divine and true, illuminating. It's all you do. Just remember, it starts with you, the mirror's hue, infinite skies reflecting you. From the void, you birth the light. Through the shadows, your soul ignites. The path within, the path divine. Through space, your world aligns. Every rise, every fall, you're connected to it all. It starts with you, the quantum view, manifesting dreams like the morning dew. From the stillness, creation flows. Through the darkness, your spirit knows. It starts with you, only you. Through dimension, through the veil, the sacred truth, and you prevail. Now infinite, clear, and true, this road ahead, it's made for you. It all begins and ends with you. Even the chaos, through the flame, you rise anew, never the same. Every heartbeat, every sign weaves your essence, soaring high. The cosmos bends to your command. Creation blooms within your hand. It starts with you, only you, only you. It starts with you.
Welcome into space, family. Happy Thursday. Come and hold space with me for a little while tonight as we go on the topic of burning bush. Eat the meat and spit out the bones. So I know that you guys couldn't hear me on Facebook, but you unmute now. You should have the repetition of knowing what my disclosures look like. I'm going to say it one more time for the people in the back. If it don't apply, let it fly. If some apply and some don't, eat the meat and spit out the bones. If it all applies, eat it all and apply the knowledge. So you guys, welcome into this space tonight. The topic tonight is the burning bush. We're here for a short time or not a long time. I don't know. We're gonna see as we start to unpack. But before we get into to the topic tonight, I want to actually set some intentions because that's what we do over here. So I'm going to have you take a deep breath with me as we go on the journey of unfolding. As we enter this space tonight, give yourself permission not to know, not to immediately explain, judge, defend, or run from whatever begins to move inside you. Just breathe and become curious enough to notice. Notice what's happening in your body. Notice what happens there when something feels unfamiliar. Notice how quickly your mind tries to give meaning to that something before you have the opportunity to understand it. And as you breathe tonight, quietly ask yourself, what have I been afraid to look behind because of what I believe might be there? What am I afraid to look underneath because I'm scared of what may lie beneath? What doors am I looking? I'm afraid to look behind because there's no telling who's on the other side. Sit with that because sometimes we don't realize how much our present is being interrupted or interpreted by our past. Something hurt you, frightened you, disappointed you. And somewhere along the way, we learn when I see this thing, whatever yours might be, I already know what comes up next. But tonight we're giving ourselves permission to look again. Not to deny what happened or to criticize how we learn to survive and what we use as our survival mechanism, but to become curious about whether everything that reminds us of that something is actually that something. We sit with that tonight and we ask, what if every uncomfortable feeling isn't dangerous? Just what if? What if every shaking isn't telling you to run? And ask yourself, what am I afraid of? I ask myself that question too. What are you afraid of, Ty? So we ask ourselves tonight, what has been my fear? And what is it keeping me from accessing? What haven't I seen? What haven't I allowed myself to experience or expand? So tonight we set the intention to remain open to answer questions or ask ourselves questions that we've all made assumptions about. Open to listen to what the body remembers without allowing that memory to decide what happens next. And open enough to consider that everything shaking in front of us may not be coming to destroy you. Maybe something is shaking because there is something beneath and waiting to emerge. So tonight we don't run, we become curious. And we give ourselves permission and the opportunity to look again. Receive that. Sit in it. And in this, I understand and overstand that everything that's mine starts with me and what's yours starts with you. And I say, and so it is. Hotep family, welcome in. Let me see what you guys were saying. I didn't see it. Welcome in. Happy Thursday. I welcome you into the space tonight. Go ahead and share the live tonight. Tonight is going to be a beautiful build. The topic tonight is a burning bush. So those of you, I welcome you guys into this space. For those of you that are new, my name is Tyson Matawi, and I welcome you into the space where it starts with you, where there's no shame, blame, or judgment. However, we do hold ourselves and one another accountable. But here in this space, we do a lot of things differently. And by now, you should know. If you don't, tonight you're going to learn that we don't just repeat information. We slow down enough to observe it, to question it, to turn it around and look underneath it. Whatever we need to do to learn about ourselves, we do that in this space. And there's no judgment here. We also ask, what is this really trying to teach me about me as we go on this life experience? So come and hold space with me tonight as we expand. And if something comes up while you're here, you're welcome to share it in the chat. If you rather remain anonymous, send it to my inbox and I'll hold space with it on your behalf. What's going on, family? It's been a minute. I know. I'm getting it together. Welcome in, Miss Denise and Miss Colette. Welcome into the space. Welcome in, Miss Joy and JMF. Thank you guys for joining. Y'all share the live as we unpack this. This is going to be a beautiful unpacking. The other day, Dr. Simatawi asked me the question, is it he or should I look for another? And it tickled the shit out of me, but he was right. But don't look for another just yet, because I'm back. I got busy, life be life, and then things start to, get you busy, and I was falling off a bit. But tonight I'm going to pop back in and I'm going to show up. And the topic tonight, again, is the burning bush. So I have a hypothesis tonight, and we're going to unpack that tonight. And I'm going to ask these questions, and I ask myself questions, and I talk to myself oftentimes because it feels right. So I'm going to ask, what if the burning bush isn't only something Moses saw? What if the burning bush is something we experience as well? What if you're the bush? And the fire, the shaking, the anxiety, the anger, the tightness in your chest, the urge to run, the inability to sit still, the shutting down, the overthinking is your nervous system saying, pay attention to me. Not necessarily that you're in danger, but pay attention. Because those are not the same things. And tonight I want us to unpack how your history, how your trauma and your conditioning and the brainwashing and your attachment can determine what you think is behind this bush. This magical bush that they told you was on fire. Because sometimes there's a bear, sometimes there isn't, and sometimes what's behind the bush is you. But why a bush? That's the question. I asked myself that over and over again. What was so special about this bush? And I started asking myself the same questions. Why not talk about bringing in an angel or speaking from the sky? Why a bush this time when anything else could have done? And why did it have to be fire? Because it wouldn't have worked. Because family, I'm sure that there was bushes everywhere. I am. And a regular bush wouldn't have interrupted anything on this journey. Moses would have walked right past just a regular smegular bush. So whatever happened had to be unusual enough to interrupt that familiar thing that you pass by, those familiar things that you see every day. So something had to catch his attention, and that's how attention works. Your brain loves patterns and repetition. It creates familiarity, and familiar things require less attention. But when something breaks the pattern, your attention says, wait a minute, what's that? And that's exactly what happened in Exodus 3. Moses sees something that doesn't fit. Fire. But the bush isn't being consumed. And Moses says, I will turn aside and see. That's curiosity, family. Something interrupted his normal walk of life, something that he had never seen before. But I asked myself, what if that fire went out? What if he put it out? Now, here's the question that messed with me. What if Moses saw the fire, became so uncomfortable and said, let me go and put it out? Metaphorically. What if he did that? Think about what would disappear. No turning aside, no encountering, no commission, no let my people go, no throwing the staff and turning it into a snake, no Moses. As we were actually fed, it would all go away. So now I'm not changing the biblical story. I'm asking what the image can teach us about us, or what the image can teach you about you. What happens when something in you starts burning and somebody teaches you to put it out? Put out your curiosity, your anger, your questions, your creativity, your sexuality, your tenderness, your ambition, your desire to know who you are. And how many of you have had somebody put your fire out before? I know what it feels like to have my fire put out. Put it in the chat. If somebody ever crushed your dreams and told you couldn't do the thing that you wanted to do, or told you couldn't be whatever it is that you desire to be. And what if you are the burning bush? Because metaphysically, I want to bring this story inside. I want to take a look on the inside, what it looks from this angle. They don't do this nowhere else. What does that look like? Internal, instead of always looking on the outside for answer, because it won't be seen with observation. He said, I see low here and low there. You won't see it that way. That's what it said. So what if they've been lying to you this whole time? Or they've misinterpreted the message, and you are this bush that Ty is speaking about today. And Moses was dealing with his own bush. And your nervous system is a part of that fire alarm that warns you when something isn't right. Your stomach changes, your chest tightens, your heart speeds up, your palm sweats, your breathing changes, you get angry, you freeze, you can't sleep, you suddenly want to just get away. And your body has gotten your attention before you figured out why. But here's the problem. An alarm tells you to investigate. It doesn't automatically tell you what caused the alarm or what's going on. It doesn't automatically do that. And that's when history will enter the picture. I remember some years back, I told this story about the bear in the woods. The bushes start shaking and the bear comes out, and your nervous system takes a snapshot and tells you, remember that. Later on, another bush starts shaking, and before you know what's actually behind it, your body says, it must be that same bear again. That's why trauma can make the unknown feel so familiar. Your survival mechanism says, I've seen this before. Curiosity says, but is it the same thing? Family, that's the battle. But let's go deeper than that tonight. And I'm giving myself permission to take my time and do this thing right tonight. Welcome in, family. Y'all share the live tonight. The topic tonight is the burning bush. That's the battle. Remember those attachment theories that I unpacked? And we don't want to pay attention to that anxiety, that anxious, that avoidant, that disorganized attachment style that we've unpacked for years. There's layers to this thing. Our earliest relationships help teach the nervous system what relationship feel like. Is closeness, is me being close to somebody, is this safe for me? Is separation danger? Can I depend on somebody? What happens when I get angry? What happens when somebody disappoints me? What happens when somebody leaves and I feel abandoned? What's happening? Those early relationships help you structure how that shows up in your life. And it influences how later you're able to emotionally regulate yourself, how you communicate and how you handle intimacy and anger. So tonight, instead of a diagnosis, I want us to investigate Moses' relationships. Now I'm saying these things not as if they really happen. We're going to take a look and we're going to see what his attachment, his separation, his identity, his fear, his anger, his need for control, because this is a man separated from his birth mother. He was raised between worlds, Hebrew by birth, Egyptian, aka Kemet, by upbringing, who unalives a man, runs, encounters God, leads people, becomes frustrated with those people, and eventually breaks the tablets in anger. Now, I'm not going to pretend a modern attachment label. I'm not going to attach anything to him. We can't just slap that on Moses and say, okay, I'm going to call it a day. But I asked a question. What does Moses' behavior teach us about attachment, regulation, anger, identity, and relationship? Because maybe the tablets breaking isn't simply Moses got mad. Maybe we should ask, what happened inside of Moses when the people did not behave the way he expected them to? That's a nervous system question. That's an attachment question. That's a what does this teach me about me question, because nobody can trigger you but you. Say it again for the people in the back, Ty. Nobody can trigger you but you. And I want to clean that up. Something we say, people absolutely can trigger me, Ty. I know they can show this behavior. They can activate something inside me. I know all the things. But they don't create your entire history in that moment. That's already in you. So instead of only asking, why did you make me feel this way? Curiosity says, why did that particular thing activate this thing that's showing up inside of me? A regular bush disappears into all the other bushes, but a burning bush will stand out. And maybe some of us keep trying to extinguish that very thing that makes us visible. But Ty, God is not changing. The same thing he did then, he is today. And I know what you're thinking, so I said it for you. Somebody gonna say it. And I'm gonna say to you, slow down. Because your scripture contains both language about God's consistency and the narrative in which God responded differently as circumstances changed. No, it don't, Ty. You know better than to just say no, it don't, because Ty don't just say things. She actually goes and tries to learn and know for herself. So let me show you. And I give myself permission to do this tonight. Malachi says, I, Lord, do not change. Yet Exodus 32:14 says, after Moses intercedes, God relents from the destruction previously announced. Genesis 6:6 says, even portrays God grieving that humanity had been made. So perhaps God doesn't change, doesn't have to mean God always does the exact same thing. Character can remain while responses change. And family, that's important, because adaptation isn't betrayal. Noah's assignment wasn't Abraham's. Abraham's wasn't Moses. Jesus's wasn't Moses's either. Different circumstances, different responses. So why would we think that the church can encounter a changing culture using exactly the same methods without examining whether those methods still serve the people? We need to be asking these questions. And I know you say, Ty, we ain't supposed to ask questions. Lies, it says, and it tells you to test everything. But last time that we was here, because everything connects. When I bring these things to you, I want us to understand and have awareness that everything that Ty brings into this space is going to connect, and I'm going to show you how to connect. Last time we unpacked doing to others as we would have them do unto us. unto you. One of the golden rules, and we challenge ourselves to go deeper than simply asking, am I treating other people right? Because how I treat you is often a reflection of the relationship that I have with myself. Say that again, Todd. How I treat you, welcome in, family. How I treat you is a reflection of the relationship that I have with myself. What I haven't examined in me, those things show up in how I treat you. And it can become what I unconsciously project onto you. So my fear, my abandonment, and it can become possession. My shame can become judgment to you because I'm ashamed of it. I'm going to judge you for it. So maybe before I can truly understand do unto others, I have to understand what have I been doing to me. And that's important tonight because now we're going even deeper. I can remember this story so well. And if you grew up in the church, you probably still hear today. Moses was out there minding his business. And all of a sudden, he sees a bush on fire, but the bush didn't burn up. Moses says, let me go over here and see what's going on. Baby, today, if I'm walking somewhere and a bush spontaneously caught on fire, nobody lit it, I can't see nobody in sight, nobody standing around, and this bush ain't burning up either, I'm probably going in the other direction. I'm curious, but I ain't that curious. But Moses, on the other hand, he said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight. What is this? In other words, what is this? What in the hell is going on over here? And I'm going to go see about it. And I know oftentimes, I go back and I laugh at these things, but there's something psychologically important happening in this allegory that they gave us. And we're unpacking that tonight. Because Moses was able to remain curious, and remaining curious is much harder to do when you're in survival mode. When you're scared and afraid, and when you're traumatized, curiosity is nowhere in the space. It's not possible. So I understand that he wasn't scared, because when your brain believes you're in danger, its priority isn't to explore, but to keep you alive and to keep you safe. And I want to simplify what the brain is constantly doing, because in the broad sense, it's doing one of two things. And that matters tonight as we unpack this. What are those two things that it's doing, Ty? It's either protecting you or teaching you about the world and yourself. It's constantly learning what happened. What did that mean? Was I safe? Was I hurt? What should I do if this happens again? And eventually enough experiences become patterns. Patterns become predictions, and prediction influence behavior. So the way you act is not an accident. This is important because the brain doesn't have time to completely investigate everything like it's seeing it for the first time. It don't. Imagine that. Having to relearn every single morning that fire can burn you. Imagine having to rediscover every time that somebody raises their fist, whether getting hit might hurt or not. Imagine having to consistently calculate every sound, every expression, every movement, every environment, every single time. You couldn't function. So the brain learns without permission. I have to simplify all of these things that's showing up in this space. It remembers, it categorizes it, it predicts things. Same thing y'all tell these children about Santa Claus. It's always watching. It never sleeps. And sometimes when it do the thing it does, it just might save your life. This remembering, this categorizing, this predictions. But sometimes what once protected you can also prevent you from remaining curious. Because that survival sometimes is going to say, I already know what this is. And family, there's a reason for that. It's something that looked like this, sounded like this, felt like this, hurt me before. The brain may not wait around for a physiological or a psychological discussion. The body begins preparing before you've consciously figured out what's happening. This is why I said earlier, if I saw a bush burning, I might go in the other direction because my experience was a bit different than Moses. I approached that bush with my history, with my experiences, with my memories, my associations, my nervous system, my understanding about fire, my understanding about danger. Everything I've lived through walks through that bush with me. But Ty, I'm not so sure I understand that. I got you. I'm going to slow down and I'm going to show us based on his experience. And we're going to go deeper. We're going to take a deep dive. And this is where the story gets interesting, because when I was talking to Dr. Simatawi about this, he brought something to my attention that Moses, could walk towards the bush. He can do those things because he hadn't had experience. He hadn't had that type of experience with the thing that made him or would require him to be scared about this. So what does that mean, Ty? He said, go and look at Moses' behavior. And that's when it hit me. Because before we ever get to the burning bush, the text had already shown us what Moses does when he believes that he's in danger. Go back one chapter, Ty, and tell me what it looked like when Moses started believing that he was in danger. Moses sees the Egyptians beating his Hebrew. And because of that, he was feeling some type of way, and he got in his feelings, so he unalived him. And then Moses found out that people knew what happened, so somebody must have seen it. In today's time, y'all was catching somebody video, and back then it wasn't no cell phone, so somebody actually seen it, was an eyewitness to this account. Ty, I don't know about that. This is what your book tells you. We have to read and stop relying on people to tell us these things and know for ourselves. If you're going to indulge in this thing that you say you love with your whole heart and you can say it with your chest, you should have the expectation for yourself to show up and know what your word says. But since you don't know, Ty's going to put you on tonight. Thank you, Ty. Exodus 2:14 says, Moses became afraid after he did this thing, which tells me that he was in survival mode. And then the Pharaoh heard about it through the grapevine. I don't know if it was the eyewitness that went back and told, but somebody went back and told. And he sought out to unalive Moses. So Moses said, you know what, let me go on and get out of here. Hold on. I can look at this behavior and tell you which one of these functions took over in this experience. Remember, we said that the brain is constantly doing a thing. In very simple terms, it's helping you to do two of the most important things: protect yourself and learn from your experience. And when Moses believed that his life was in danger, he wasn't standing around saying, I wonder what Pharaoh gonna do, how he gonna show up, is he gonna be angry, could he teach me about? That ain't what happened. Baby, Moses ran. He got out of there, because when survival mode takes over, curiosity isn't an option. The brain says, we can analyze this later. Let's get out of here. Right now, we need to beat these feet. This is why when you eat your black us, when somebody takes off running, we don't wait to find an explanation behind it. We run too, and we'll find out later what he means. But the white people, I'm going to go and I'm going to see. Come on here, Ty. That's the protection. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. Sometimes leaving is wisdom. There's a time to I wonder if I can say die on here. There's a time to stop living and a time to live. There's a time to be born and there's a time to stop living. There's a season for everything. Sometimes running is what keeps you alive. So, family, I'm saying you should always move towards the thing that scares you. I'm not saying that all the time. There's always, it has to be balance. Some things you need to get away from, just like Moses did. Your biblical text shows us that. But with that same nervous system, the same brain, the outcome is different with the burning bush. So why is that? These are questions that Pastor and them they're not going to unpack this. Like, what is the mindset of these people at that time? Not how can you not say that it's in the behavior? All we have to do is take a look, pay attention. Because that tells me something. Their behavior tells us the unusual thing had not been interpreted by Moses as a threat. That burning bush wasn't threatening to him. He didn't know what it was, but apparently he had enough internal space, aka capacity, to say, let me go and see. And family, that's huge. Because when you're truly in survival mode, the brain isn't primarily concerned with what deeper meaning could this have. It's concerned with, am I safe or can I learn something? That's why a traumatized person can react before they understand why they're reacting. This is why in court they tell you, did he have time to think about it? Because they know. They've been studying us for a long time. They know what's premeditated and what's not. The body and the mind has learned something in the present resembles something from the familiar past. And the system says, I know this. Before you ever finish asking what is happening, your history may be already answering the questions for you. That's dangerous. Don't go over there. And now you're moving, you're fighting, you're freezing, you're leaving, you're shutting down, you're protecting yourself, and you're becoming more aware. We should open our circumferences of awareness to expand outside of these boxes that they painted us in. This book that they handed us is about human behavior. Yes. You can believe that these events happen literally if you want. Listen, I don't care if you believe it literally happened or not. It's still the principle and the value is still in it. I'm not here tonight to ask you to forget what you know or take that away from anybody. But what I'm saying is don't stop there, because underneath these stories, people are behaving, people are sinning, they're afraid, they're jealous, they're ashamed, they're hiding, they're grieving, they're fighting, they're projecting, they're betraying people, they're loving, they're surviving, they're questioning. You're doing all this because you're trying to understand yourself. These narratives give you pictures of the human psyche. They took something that was complicated, something psychological, something difficult to explain, and gave you an image. What did that image look like, Ty? I'm glad you asked. A garden. It looked like a serpent, a flood, a wilderness, a mountain. It looks like a giant. It looks like a cross. And right here tonight, it looks like a burning bush in your life. Something you can see, remember, something you can wrestle with. Because what if the burning bush isn't just showing us something happening outside of Moses? What if it's also showing something happening inside you right now today? Something catches your attention, something doesn't fit, something begins moving. And your mind has to decide, what is this? Have you experienced this before? Do I run or can I get curious? That's what babies do. And that's why the Pope says, give me your children, because they know how it works. My goal is not to romanticize Moses or give you guys a fairy tale to indulge in. Like this man was was moving and walking around fearless, and he wasn't, according to your text, that is. Because sometimes, like Moses with Pharaoh, you need to run yourself. And sometimes, like Moses at the bush, you need to finally be safe enough to turn aside and see. So, family, now the obvious question becomes, what does the burning bush look like today? Because ain't nobody on their way to work. At least I ain't never been on my way to work on I-20, or I've gone to I-49 to my hometown with a bush of fire and it's burning, and I don't know where the flames come from. And then it starts calling my name, saying something like that to me. So what does it look like? And we're going there tonight. But before we do, I don't want to beat a dead horse. I don't want to keep giving you the same scripture, the same explanation, the same Moses, the same burning bush like the pastor do Sunday after Sunday. That's not what Ty does. Because it contributes to the brainwashing that shows up. Because part of what I'm trying to prevent is us being programmed with the knowing that we were, I'm going to say keep being programmed, perpetuating the same cycle of programming. So before we ask, what does the bush look like today, Ty? Can you stop and back up and go beyond the bush? Yes, I absolutely can. Welcome in the space, family. We're going to go beyond the bush tonight. Hey, Miss Shay, welcome in. Sometimes, if you really want to understand the intentions of a symbol, you got to go further back into the world, the psychology, the culture, and the human questions. Hey, beautiful. So I'm going to go back to the origin. I'm going to take us back to Kemet, what they call Egypt. And I want to be careful here because I know y'all like to tussle. I know you do. So when I say that there is no historical evidence that the story of Moses really happens, keep what you want. I'm just saying there, and here's something else. There were stories being told long before the biblical story of Moses was written down. I'm putting you on. Let me show you something real quick. I believed it too. In Kemet, they call ancient Egypt, there was an old story called the story of Sennacherib, or Sennacherib. And the story goes back almost 4,000 years. And I want you guys to listen to what happened. He was connected to Kemet, or Egypt. Something happened that made him afraid for his life, so he ran away from Kemet, or Egypt, into a foreign land. And he started living amongst these different people. He built a new life there. And eventually he had to go back and deal with what happened in Egypt before he left, or Kemet before he left. And there's a pattern here that I don't want us to miss. Leave Egypt. Go into a foreign land, become somebody different, then face that place that you came from again. Because metaphysically, Egypt isn't just a place. It represents the environment that formed you. The family, your religion, your culture, your trauma, the things that taught you who you are supposed to be. And sometimes you have to get far enough away from what you were designed, or what they shaped you to be. That thing that made you who you were. I oftentimes hear people say, you got to get away from where you grew up in, because those people that you grew up around won't be your supporters. And I can attest that happens. Most of the time when you're from wherever town you're from, your supporters are not even from there. The people that you grew up with won't even support you. It'd be the other people. So I can resonate with this story. So it's designed to make you ask the question, who am I without it? And family, that's exactly where Moses is when he encountered the burning bush. What are you saying, Ty? What I'm saying is, before many of these stories were handed to us as isolated religious doctrines, ancient civilizations were already exploring the character, the order of people you grew up with won't support you. Peace. Who is that? Cotton Express. That's what I'm saying. Thank you for sharing that. That's exactly what I'm saying. They were already watching how justice and truth and balance, the consequences of human behavior, what happens, what brings a person into alignment, what pulls a person out of alignment. In Kemet, one of the central concepts was ma'at. Step with your left foot forward and let your heart proceed. Truth, justice, right order. Not what religion do you belong to. Bounce. Thank you for coming and holding space. But are you living in right relationship with yourself, with other people, and the order around you? Family, we have to get outside of our circumference of awareness for the things that you've been taught. Everything that you think you know is not all there is to know. These things were connected with how does a person behave? How does a person learn? How does wisdom get transmitted? What kind of person are you becoming? Are you righteous? And is your heart as light as a feather? These are the things, family. Here's where I'm going. What if these images were only meant for you to stare at the image? What if they were never meant to do that? What if it's deeper than that? What if this imagery they gave you was supposed to help you see yourself? So I don't want you to get hypnotized by the bush. Ask, what is the bush doing? Ask again, Ty, what is your bush doing? This whole thing is opening up for me from something my partner said. He gave me an example again, and just the other day, for those of you that never heard it, I'm going to share it with you tonight. Welcome in, Miss Daisy. If you heard this before, act like you ain't never heard it before and hear it for the first time over again with some new ears, because since then you've grown, you've learned, hopefully, you've not been stagnant. So imagine going on a hike, right? Everything is peaceful. You're enjoying the scenery. You're walking down the trail and suddenly a bush starts to shake. You stop, you look, and then behind that bush comes out a bear. Family, now let me say this. I don't care how much praying you do. I don't care how many times you call on that special name. I don't care how many times you hop on the Honda. Your body is still learning. It's going to learn something from this experience. What will it learn, Ty? That a shaking bush means danger. And naturally, your heart accelerates, your muscles prepare, attention narrows, memory records, your nervous system says, don't forget this happened. Why? Because its job in the moment is to keep you alive. So your nervous system is going to do what it do automatically. Welcome in. Hey, beautiful. I ain't seen you in forever. Why? Because its job in that moment, again, is to keep you alive. So you survive the bear. You go home. 6 months later, you're going hiking again. You see another bush and it's shaking. By this time, there is no bear. Maybe it's the wind. Maybe a little bitty baby rabbit, a bird. Maybe something that's not dangerous at all. But your nervous system doesn't necessarily know that yet, because your nervous system remembers the last time that bush was shaking, a bear came out. And that is one of the simplest ways that I can explain that. How trauma can begin organizing behavior. Trauma is not simply something bad happened to me. People experience painful things all the time. We all went through things in our lives that was painful, but it does not necessarily mean that trauma happened as a result of it. Trauma is what happens when an experience overwhelms your ability to adequately process, organize, to integrate, or recover from what happened to you. And afterwards, your nervous system may continue behaving as though something associated with that experience still requires protection, as if it's happening all over again. So whatever your experience was, you can't even tell that it's somebody different, that it's not the bear. You can only see that it's the same thing happening over again. The bear may be gone, but the bush still shaking, and the body says bear, regardless of what it is. And family, I want to talk specifically to the Black man and the Black woman. I'm not excluding you. So listen, I want you guys to listen too. Because what happens when people have encountered more than one bear? This happens to us on a daily basis. With slavery, it happened when they were lynching our people. Just not long ago, Nolan Wells, we have the segregation, we have economic exclusion, we have police violence, we have housing discrimination, we have employment discrimination, we have being criminalized. Imagine portraying you as dangerous before you even open your mouth to speak. Systems tell you consciously and unconsciously and consciously to watch yourself. Mothers, we're telling our sons, when the police stop you, keep your hands where they can see them. Don't make any sudden moves. Don't argue. Come home to me alive. This is what we do. Now, family, understand something. Some of it is adaptation. If that bear, and I'm saying bear because I'm talking about those experiences, have actually appeared in your experience, you can't trick it into believing that the bear don't exist. This is what the YT people don't understand. They don't understand why we just can't get over it. And I don't expect them to. We should stop expecting them to understand it. They get the smallest little thing and they can't handle it. They can't handle what we've been through. And Christianity has also been a source of resistance, community meaning, and liberation for the Black people. Harriet Tubman herself was profoundly religious. But Christianity has been interpreted and weaponized to demand obedience, to justify domination. It discourages questions and it makes suffering a part of the holy experience. And what happens when you repeatedly tell a Black man whose nervous system is already navigating danger? My mama already prepared me for what shows up in the space if I get pulled over. What happens when you tell a Black man's nervous system, don't get angry, just forgive them. God will handle it. Obey your authority. Your reward is coming later. What happens if those teachings aren't helping him understand his fire, but the teaching helps extinguishes it? Because anger isn't automatically evil, and we need to start teaching people this. Just because you're angry, it's not the work of the devil. It says it's a time for everything. There's a season for everything. Sometimes anger says, sometimes violating me says, I can get angry if I want to. Question isn't merely how do I stop being angry? The question is, what is my fire trying to show me? What is this anger trying to show me? What is my jealousy trying to show me? What is my bush? Come on here, Ty. If y'all church is talking like this, invite me. I promise you I'll come. I'll show up. I might even put a little offering in the collection plate if it shows up like this. Don't get me wrong. There have been and will continue to be real bushes, real bears behind them. So I refuse to tell you that the danger was all imagined, that it didn't happen. I'm not going to tell you that. Some dangers was real. Some danger is still real. But here's the question. What happens when the nervous system becomes so accustomed to expecting that every shaking bush becomes that thing? Now we have another problem, Houston, because the mechanism that once helped protect you starts preventing you from accessing what's behind the bush. So that desire, that thing that you want so much. So let me ask you, Put it in the chat if you will, if you're not afraid. What's behind your bush? Put it in the chat. Because what if behind some of those shaken bushes isn't dangerous? What are we missing out on because of what we think is behind that bush? What if your desire is back there? What if the intimacy and the love reside back and through the behind that bush that you're afraid to approach? What if you're just leaving something familiar because somebody your family has never seen before or something? What happens when your desire sits behind it and your history says, don't go over there? Because the pastor or the prophet or the prophetess said so. Even though you've never had an experience to know for yourself. So you withdraw. You want love, but vulnerability makes the bush shake. So I'm going to talk about me for a while, and I give myself permission to do that. Because I have bushes. I am the bush. Things that consciously, unconsciously, that I'm afraid to walk towards right now today. The things I know may be good for me. Things I say I want, and yet when I get close enough, something starts shaking. And sometimes I don't even consciously know what I'm afraid of. I just know I start behaving differently. I pull back. I start overthinking. So I procrastinate. I become defensive. I try to control the outcome. I protect myself before anything has ever even happened. That's a scary thing to admit. Because sometimes the bear isn't standing behind the bush anymore, but I brought the memory of the bear with me. Erykah Badu said it best, bag lady, you gonna miss your bus. Come on. Toting all that bag, all them bags around. And that baggage, all in that baggage is the things that you carry from prior relationship. You're carrying the baggage from things that your parents done to you in childhood. You're carrying the baggage from that love affair you had, that heartbreak. You're carrying the baggage from all these things. One of my mentors would say, don't just look at the behavior, look at the environment that helped create this behavior. What did I have to become to survive where I was? What did I learn about love and safety, rejection and trust? What did I learn about those things? Matter of fact, what did I learn about myself? What did I learn about me that I brought with me that's not even true? And family, some of those lessons I still carry around, you still carry on without knowing that you're carrying them. And they show up all up and through your experiences every day. That's why you keep getting the same man in a different body. That's why you keep getting treated the same on the next job when you quit the first one. That's what Ty is talking about today. But here's where it got uncomfortable for me, because not knowing doesn't always remove your responsibility. Say that again for the people in the back. Because you say you don't know, that it does not remove your responsibility. Listen, it says, even when somebody does wrong without realizing it, there's still accountability. It also says in your book of magic, ignorance may change the level of accountability, but it doesn't completely erase it. So I can't keep saying, well, I didn't know, or I wasn't taught. At some point, when the pattern keeps showing up, I have to become curious about it. I may not be responsible for the bear, that came out of the bush, but I am becoming responsible for learning why I'm still running from every bush that shakes. That's different. That's not blaming myself for the trauma. That's taking responsibility for the healing. And I said at the beginning of the year, we're getting rid of the goat. I'm trying to get rid of my goats. I'm trying to get rid of those things that I'm carrying from past relationships, that I'm carrying from childhood, that I'm carrying from my daddy issues, that I'm carrying from the abandonment issues that I had. I'm carrying from the heartbreak that I suffered from having children with the wrong people. I'm leaving all of that behind. Because maybe some of what I'm calling, that's how I am. That's who I am. We say it all the time, lady. He need to accept me for who I am. Lies. He won't. This is a new breed of men. And what's really showing up, that's how I learned how to survive. That's how you learn how to survive. That's what mama and them and auntie and them taught you. This is what you need to do to make sure that you can actually, if this man is showing up in heartbreak, this is what you do. You go and you know what they told you. I know what they told me. It don't matter if he ugly or not. Lies. It matters all. Listen, it matters. It shouldn't matter if I cook or not. It matters. Don't let them trick you and say it don't. I'm telling you, it does. Those things that you're learning taught your parents how to survive. Welcome in, DJ E Smooth. It taught your parents how to survive. It taught your grandma and them how to survive. So they teaching you what taught them how to survive. And you're carrying around it as if it's yours. And it's not. You should be having your own experience. That's why it tells you to test everything. Because if I learned it, maybe I can examine it. You're going to have to start examining some of these things. It tells you test everything. And if I examine it, maybe I can understand it. And if I understand it, maybe the next time that person shows up, maybe the next time I have this experience, maybe the next time the bush starts staking, instead of automatically running, I can stop and I can stay long enough to ask, is this bear actually here for me this time? Or did I bring an old bear into this new experience? Let me put it in layman's term. Is this guy really a threat, or am I bringing my past experience that I had with that no good man into this experience? Uh-oh, hold on, y'all. Hold on, y'all. Oh my gosh. We're going to get it right here in a minute. Welcome in, family. Happy Thursday. All right, we got it. Y'all say hello as y'all get in the building. Topic tonight is the burning bush. This is where freedom starts. And here's where I want to challenge us one last time. I shouldn't even say one last time, because Ty's going to keep challenging us, because we want to open and expand the space. We don't want to just stay in those spaces that we think we know and we know. We're going to tap into that infinite space of the things we don't know, and we're open to receive. Because we've gotten comfortable putting everything, we're blaming trauma for everything. That's my trauma. That's my trigger. That's my nervous system. And sometimes it absolutely is. It absolutely is. It can be. Something happened to you. We're not denying that. Your nervous system recorded it. Your body remembered it. That's trauma. But family, what if sometimes there was never trauma, or wasn't never a bear, or something you thought was dangerous, and somebody told you that there was, and you just took their word for it because you trusted them. And they didn't tell you just once, they told you over and over again. Get you a man with some money, which I think that's a good thing to tell. But they don't tell you what goes along with that, the obligation, and how you are supposed to show up in the space so that somebody can take care of you. What is your part in it? What do you have to offer? And we're not talking about between our legs. We're not talking about that. We're talking about expand further than that. What can you offer it? Dr. Miles Monroe said the woman is responsible for the nurturing. She's responsible for, if the man buys the home, she's responsible for making it a house, or making it a home. If he buys the house, she's responsible for making it a home. So we got to wake up through these Bible stories and Sunday schools, revivals and sermons, and mama and grandma and them and uncle and pastor, until the story and their interpretation of the story and became the same thing in your mind as if it really happened. They didn't just give some of us the Bible story. They gave us what we were supposed to think about it too. Thank you. They didn't just tell you, Noah wasn't supposed to. Noah showed up on the scene. They told you what you were supposed to think about. They said Noah wasn't something to investigate. Believe it. Jonah wasn't something to wrestle with. Believe it. Hell wasn't something to question. Fear it. God wasn't something to explore. Obey him. And if you question it, that's of the devil, and you're being rebellious. Don't lean on your own understanding. Touch not God's anointing. God's ways are not your ways. Scripture after scripture, sometimes pulled away from the larger context and used to shut down the very curiosity Moses demonstrated, and what I've unpacked for him. That's so many of them demonstrated at the time. But they don't give you that. That's where we have to make the distinction, because trauma says the bear came out of the bush and frightened me. Condition says because of that, I learned that shaking bushes might mean danger, but indoctrination says somebody repeatedly told me what was behind this bush and discouraged me from checking for myself, aka knowing for myself. And brainwashing move even further when fear and repetition and isolation from competing ideas and punishment from questioning are used to control what you are allowed to believe. And here's why childhood mattered. You heard some of these stories before you even knew how to examine it. It just, I don't know, it does something to me on the inside when I see them taking these babies up here, because they don't even have their prefrontal cortex to even know what contracts they're signing. Even at 17 or under years old, they can't even sign a legal contract. But we're asking these babies to sign contracts based on what we're giving them, based on our interpretation of what it is, before they even get a chance to understand history and how metaphors work, before you understand translation, before you could ask, who even wrote this? Who took these words that were written in Hebrew or whatever language they were written in before, interpreted it? How was their nervous system showing up? So how do I know that what they wrote is not a reflection of the trauma that they experienced through their life? What was happening culturally at the time? And could this be symbolic, or is this an allegory? Before any of that, what does this story teach me about human behavior? Baby, you were 6 when they gave this to you, however old you were when they gave you this. So somebody else answered these questions that Ty is asking. They answered them for you. They answered the question is how from Friday to Sunday It's 3 days and 3 nights. It's not. But they made it fit. And after enough repetition, their voice became your voice. Don't look over there. Don't read that. Don't question that. That's evil. That's not God. That's what we do to our children. That's how they know what to touch and what not to. Because mama told them to, because grandma say don't touch that. That's how these kids know. And eventually nobody has to stand beside them and say don't touch it no more. What does it say? Train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he gets old, they will not depart from him. We're talking about tonight, Mr. I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. We're talking about the burning bush. That's the part I'm trying to wake myself up to, because sometimes what we're calling religious trauma ain't that. But underneath some of it, maybe also conditioning, indoctrination, fear-based teaching, unquestioned repetition. The person that's giving you these things, their trauma responses and their survival mode and their not regulated nervous system. And those things can certainly create experiences of fear and shame and rejection and punishment and terror that later become traumatic and cause you to have traumatic experiences in your life. But if we're going to heal, we have to know what we're actually dealing with. Did something happen to me? Or was something repeatedly taught to me? Or was it both? And here's what get me. They gave us Moses, but what about the Black Moses? Harriet. Rest in power. Ashe to Harriet. She didn't simply just cross over herself. She went back again and again. I think they said 13 times. She helped about 70 people reach freedom. Think about that. Through tonight's metaphor, she had every reason to know bears were real. Slavery was real. Violence was real. Her nervous system was inventing danger, but danger did not become the only information available to her. She learned routines. She studied landscape. She built relationships. She developed strategy. She used faith to become resourceful. That's what I mean when I say healing isn't becoming who you were before the bear or who it was before the thing that scared you. She became knowledgeable about danger, and knowledge expanded her circumference of awareness, her capacity to move through it. Welcome in, Ms. Taylor Cook. They gave us a story about a man who saw something he didn't understand and said, I'm going over there and see. And then sometimes the very religion teaches us the contradiction about Moses, tells us don't go over there, don't question nothing, don't investigate, don't explore another interpretation, don't study what came before this, don't ask about Kim, and don't ask who you were before you became what you are today, don't ask what you believe, what you think you are. Family, how did we get that from Moses? Moses wasn't afraid to talk to the bush. He approached it. He questioned, he listened, he wrestled, he investigated. So maybe if we're going to follow Moses, some of us need to walk back towards that bush. The hell with the interpretations they give you. Let me correct that. The misinterpretations that they gave you. And that includes me too. Because I have to ask myself, Ty, how many bushes are you afraid of because something, actually happened to you? And how many bushes are you afraid of because somebody told you what was behind it? Some of my fear came from my experiences, but a lot of it came from what was handed to me because somebody I trusted told me that it was that. And after carrying it long enough, I stopped recognizing where the fear even came from. Is it mine? It just sounds like me. That's why healing requires two questions. When the bush shakes, what happened to me and what was taught to me? Because one may need healing and the other may need to be unlearned. There's some unlearning that needs to happen tonight. And I'm not saying that it's going to be easy, because your brain has to be rewired. You have to unlearn some of those bad behaviors and start rewiring some new neurons. And in some instances, we're going to have to do them both. We're going to have to start doing them at the same time. So family, maybe freedom isn't believing every bush is safe, but some bushes still have bears. But freedom also means nobody gets to convince me there's a bear behind every bush without me ever looking. So you ain't going to be able just to come up and show up and tell me, Ty, something is over there and I don't see nothing. And I'm running for nothing just because you running. What scares you may not scare me. This is why people can be brought up in the same household and have two different experiences. One sister can say, well, mama wasn't that bad. And the other sister say, mama beat me to unalive, almost unalive me. And they had the same exact experiences. Because behind that bush might be my history, my creativity, my tenderness, my desire, my purpose, a different way of understanding God, a different way of understanding myself. And I'll never know if fear or trauma or conditioning or brainwashing or somebody else's interpretation keeps answering these questions for me. So now that I know that I can hear Moses a little bit different. When I listen to that story, I can look at it beyond just the physical things. I will turn aside and I see. He didn't say, I know what's over there. He said, I'm going back. I'm going to go take a look. And maybe that's the final lesson. The goal isn't to become fearless, because there's a time for that too. The goal is to become curious enough, discerning enough, and curious enough to stop letting old things and then imaginary bears own every one of your bushes. Hold on, fam. I don't know what happened to the dominion. What happened to y'all's dominion? We're always saying I'm more than a conqueror. Because maybe what's been keeping you away from these bushes has also been keeping you away from what's behind it. Why don't you turn aside and see? Now, I know somebody's saying, after I've been on here almost over an hour, Ty, you make it sound so easy. Just walk towards the bush when I'm scared. Or some may be even saying, I don't have no bushes, Ty. And I'm going to say, yes, you do. We all do. Remember, Ty unpacks that, these allegories that they use physical things to help us understand things we cannot always see. And I know that you don't like when I say the word metaphysical, but we look beyond the physical things. The bush gives an image to something happening inside of you. So your bush may not have leaves. Your bush might be the relationship you're afraid to enter because the last one hurt you. So you're on your Miss Independent. I'm going to be a golden girl. I don't want no man. Shit, you might be on that. Your bush might be the business you keep talking yourself out of, that you procrastinate about. Your bush might be going to the school, you want to go back to school and you just say, I'm going to put it off to the next time. Your bush might be saying, I love you, or I need help. Your bush might even be setting a boundary with your family. Your bush might be questioning something you believed your entire life. Your bush might even be becoming the person that you keep saying you want to be. Because sometimes what scares us most isn't what's behind us. It's who we might become if we move forward. And I'm not pretending, and I'll never tell you that the shit is easy, because it's not. I'm telling you, it's hard. It's real hard. And I'm still dealing with some of my own bushes. And when I say bushes, I'm talking my own nervous system, how to get my system regulated, and what lies beneath and behind that. I still have moments, a lot of moments where I still feel some shaking going on, and everything in me says, Ty, don't go over there. Don't call, just run. Sometimes I still avoid. Sometimes I discover that the older bear is still living in my head. So I'm not asking you to do something I won't have to do myself. I'm not asking that of you. Because maybe the bush isn't what's stopping you. Maybe it's what you believe is behind it. And if you never look, you'll never discover whether the bear is actually there or not. And you'll never become the greatest version of yourself. So your peace, your love, your freedom might be behind it. The greatest version of you might be behind it. And maybe that's why the bush keeps shaking, to give you a chance to get it right. This is why you got a new relationship. It's giving you an opportunity to get it right this time. It's not always coming to destroy you, but because life is trying to get your attention. Because Moses could have walked away from that bush. He could have. But maybe courage says, I'm afraid, but I still need to know. Because the person you have already been can only take you so far. They say doing the same thing, expecting different results, is insanity. So at some point you have to meet the person you have not become yet. And maybe they're not lost. Maybe they're simply waiting on the other side for you to show up for them and do what you're supposed to do. Maybe they're simply waiting on the other side that you won't walk towards, because you've been too afraid. So don't curse the shaking bush. Y'all don't do that. Or try to cast it out or push it down or pray it away or like it's a demon. Don't automatically run from it. Get curious. Let's start looking again. And when it's safe to take one step, then you take another. This is what he says. If you take one step, I'll take two. Y'all just forgot that's what y'all words say. So Ty ain't saying nothing different than what y'all words say. Great things are on the other side of discomfort. Family, turn aside and remember the question. So what was Moses' bush really about? Maybe the burning bush wasn't simply about Moses discovering God. Maybe Moses needed to discover him. Because the man who walked towards that bush wasn't yet the man who could confront Pharaoh. Uh-oh. Y'all don't want to hear that talk. What about that? Like, is it possible that something had to happen between what he was at the time and let my people go? Maybe he wasn't ready, and this is what he needed to become brave enough to walk towards that bush so that he can face his fear. So that when it showed up with the stutter that he had, he would be able to push through. Maybe that's the experience that he needed. So then maybe that's the experience that your nervous system needs. Your nervous system will tell you when something is shaking. Your history will tell you what it means. Your attachment will influence how close you're willing to get. Your conditioning may tell you, don't question it. Your trauma may scream, it's a bear, it's a bird, it's whatever it is your fear is. But awareness can still ask, what is actually there? And now I have to answer my own questions. Because at the beginning of tonight, I asked myself, Ty, what are you afraid of? And I think I might know a little bit of my answer, and I'm going to share with you guys tonight. Sometimes I'm not afraid of the bush. I'm afraid of what I believe is behind it. I'm afraid the old bear might still be there. I'm afraid if I try again, what happened before might happen again. And sometimes I'm afraid of something I've never experienced because somebody else taught me to fear it. I'm still working on my bushes. I still run sometimes. I still shut down sometimes. I still mistake old information for my present reality. So I'm not standing here telling you don't be afraid. I'm saying don't let fear finish the investigation. And that's what it means when it says storms may rise and winds may blow. That's what that means. Those things that prevent you from being the greatest version of yourself, they're going to show up. There's nothing that we can do about it. Moses didn't know what that bush meant. But when fear is no longer the only voice allowed to speak, you can start changing your reality. So when your bush starts shaking, don't automatically put the fire out. Ask yourself, what is this? What am I feeling? What am I expecting? What do I learn? What did I learn from that experience last time? Is it the same? And maybe most importantly, what part of me is waiting on the other side? And I want to leave you guys with something tonight. I made some good time tonight. One of my mentors gave this analogy, and I'm going to share it with you guys tonight. He said, the snake which cannot cast its skin has to die. As well, the minds which are prevented from changing their opinions, they cease to be mine. Let me bring that all the way down. A snake grows, but eventually its old skin doesn't fit anymore. And if it wants to keep growing, it has to let that old skin go. Think of yourself as that snake. Maybe that's us. Some of the things we learn as children, we can't keep doing those things because if so, we can't grow. Help us make sense of the world we're living in. Those things that we learned as children, some of those things protected us, some frightened us, some things were simply what somebody else told us. But now we're grown, and as we're grown up, we need to put away some of those childish things. In other words, we need to grow outside and become bigger and greater. What it says, let your light so shine. And you can't do that if you stay still in that same skin. And maybe some of that old thinking doesn't fit anymore. Just like what's for you is for you. When we used to hear people, our elders say that, what's for me is for me. Can't nobody do anything about it. You can. You can block yourself. Ain't nobody standing in your way but you. How is that showing up in your life? Are you benefiting from all of those old indoctrinations, that old snake skin that you're in that keeps you confined inside that little bitty circumference of awareness that won't allow you to access those things that are showing up outside of your circumference of awareness of the things that you don't know, those infinite things? So the next time your bush starts shaking, try to give yourself an opportunity to stop and look and get curious. Ask, what is this? That's what Moses did. Don't forget them triggers gonna show up. Let them become information. The shaking bush becomes information. And what about Kemet? Now, family, put a pin right there, just for a second, because Moses doesn't emerge in a vacuum. The Exodus story places him in Egypt and Kemet in the African world and civilization with its own culture, its concepts of order, morality, death, divine authority, and human behavior. So before we simply access Egypt, Kemet, that it's evil, they taught us that those things were evil. We need to become Moses about all of the things that they taught us. Turn aside and investigate. What was Kemet? What did they believe? What was ma'at? What was step with my left foot forward and let my heart see? Because the same biblical text that tells you don't, it also tells you to test everything. What ideas existed before our religion, before our religious interpretation? What was it before when there was no biblical text? That's a separate teaching. But family, curiosity means we're allowed to ask. And that made me think differently about the image of the narrow path. Not because the Bible says only unique people are righteous, and what the pastor says, touch not my anointed, that I'm a special one. It doesn't. But metaphysically, I can take something from the image. The broad path is easy to follow, meaning what everybody else is doing is easy. But what about that narrow path that it says, the ones that are in the narrow path? The uniqueness about yourself, the things that you have unique to you. Who wants to do what everybody else is doing? I don't, because I have my own light. I have my own gifts. I have my own thing. You have yours. What does that mean, Ty? Everyone is a bush. But who has that glow? I had to go back to one of my favorite movies where it taught a valuable lessons, like Bruce Leroy. He said, if you got that glow, the narrow path requires attention, discernment, awareness, sometimes the courage to be different, to stand out amongst the crowd. And I'm aware that you don't get it like this anywhere else. Ty comes on and she shares these things and she walks it down and makes sure that it connects. If you don't get it, go over there on YouTube so that you can get it from the beginning to the end, or go back and look at some of those previous ones and you can actually connect the dots. If it don't connect, family, we need to start questioning these things. We need to start investigating. We have to look what's under, we have to. And you don't get it anywhere else, but I love that for us. But we have to go within and go back to the origin, because you cannot become who you're becoming while holding on to every belief that they gave you, every fear that they gave you, every survival behavior of who you had to be to actually make sure that you can survive in the world. Denying yourself, denying the actual things that you want to do. Sometimes you have to shed that old fear skin. And sometimes you've got to walk towards the shaking bush, because the thing that you've been afraid to look behind might be the very thing standing between you and that person you trying to become, or that new relationship, or that new job, or that new business venture, or the thing that you desire. I want to be a wife. That thing is behind that. So that's going to be it for me, family. I'm going to also say to you guys that tonight was sponsored by Filthy Cuisines. If you don't know and you enjoy meal prep, you could actually tie in, DM me if you're in the DFW area. Delivery is available, also pickup. But we're actually in the mode of not just thinking to become mentally well. We want to actually nurture our bodies, our minds, our spirit. And it begins with this temple that you have. nutrition. Your body, mind, and soul is all one, and it needs to be healthy. So tonight, as I've been sharing and unpacking the burning bush, all of that I shared tonight, what's mine starts with me, and what's yours starts with you. And I'm going to bid you a good night. Hotep.